It's week 6, and I genuinely could not tell you what I did last week if you paid me. The days are really starting to blur, and the weeks are even more blurry. This particular week was a lot. So I'm here, I showed up, and that might be the whole lesson. So let's get into it. So on paper, this week was TEDx. That's the thing that was on the calendar. That's supposed to be my focus during the sabbatical, by the way. But life does not care about your calendar. There's so much happening in my personal life that I'm not ready to unpack on camera. But I know what it feels like when you are in a season and you need your people and you don't have the words to tell them that you need them. And I talk about that in my TEDx. I talk about you could be in your season, you could be going through your best or your worst, and the world still requires you to show up. And sometimes the hardest part isn't even the season itself. It might be just not having the language. I'm grateful that I'm no longer there. I'm grateful that I have women in my life that I can call. And this week reminded me why all of that actually matters and why it's really important to build community. But on the note of community, can we talk about church in LA for a second? I'm so sorry. And I love LA. To know me, to know I love LA. The church culture here is odd to me. And I say this as someone who grew up in church. I did the Hillsong thing for 10 years. My dad was in ministry. I was a Sunday school teacher. So I'm not coming at this from the outside. I come from inside the building. And I think that's why so many people have been hurt by the church, because the church is filled with imperfect people doing imperfect things, and sometimes it's in God's name. And I get it, it's super complex. But for me, and look, this is just me, church for me is the foundation for everything. The word is what really matters. And I've seen all the theatrics. I don't need any of those worship that's lights flashing. Don't need that. I need someone to open the word and actually teach it. Okay? So I've been telling my friends for a minute that I need a church. I need a church in LA. And I've been here for years, absolute years. And I've been searching, testing, trying. It has been disappointing. And then one of my friends reached out and one of my friends was like, hey, try this church. And I did. I walked into the church at 9:15 for a 9:30 service. Yeah, it shows how much I needed to be in the church building. And I was there kind of just in my own head. But this season and yes. So I got to church super early and I walked in, I was near the front and I just listened. The sermon this time was so interesting because it was about Isaac. And if any of you know the story in the Bible, if you're watching this, if you're a Christian, I'll give you a quick rundown. Isaac, Abraham waited for Isaac, the child he wanted the most, the thing he waited for. And the pastor was asking, what is your Isaac? Not what are you struggling with, not what's hard right now. What did God give you that you're holding on so tight that if he was to ask for it back, you would fight him? So that could be your career, that could be a relationship. There's a version of yourself that you've been protecting that God wants you to release. Guys, I was in tears. Because the pastor said something you've been going from mountain for mountain, but between the peaks, I need your heart to heal before the next one. Because some seasons aren't even about moving forward. They're just about recovery. And your heart needs to be tended to from just the journey you've been on. And not just pointing towards a destination. It's honestly recovering from the journey. So yeah, I'm sitting there in church and I'm bawling. But this is my sabbatical. This is exactly what this is supposed to be. And during service, it was talking about what is the easiest thing that has become the hardest thing? And for me, being protected, feeling safe, being certain, knowing what's next is the thing I need. But sometimes the very thing we need the most, safety, certainty, control over our lives and our careers, is what God is asking us to release. He's asking us to release our grip on it because he wants to be that for us. God wants us to be the thing we anchor ourselves to. So church gathered me. And I didn't even realize how badly I needed to be gathered, but okay. Quick sidebar, because this connects. I promise you this connects. One of the threads that's been running through this week, whether it's the church stuff, whether it's the personal stuff, whether it's the business stuff, the thing that keeps coming up is forgiveness. But I've also been able to let go and move on and genuinely hold no resentment to anybody. And people don't know what to do with it because people are so used to two options. You're either still fighting or you've forgiven them and you're pretending everything's fine. And I'm like, how about the third option? I forgive you. I'm praying for you. I genuinely wish you well. And we just don't need to be close no more. And it's not about being cold. It's about you realizing and having this level of clarity about what you need in your season. So if you're listening to this and you think we have some unresolved tension, I don't have beef with you, baby. I'm not fighting with anyone, actually. And the nonchalance that you get from me isn't even me being shady. I forgave you and I just kept on moving with my life because life moves on and you no longer are part of my life. Okay, okay. All right, that's it. Back to TEDx. It took me 5 weeks to write my intro because of this brain fog. And I cried every single time I was writing the intro, just the intro, because it required me to say something about myself, about the way I am. And I wasn't really sure I was ready for people to see that. So you're gonna see a version of me that you've never seen before. And I kept on asking myself, am I okay being this vulnerable on stage? But then I was like, this whole season is about honesty. It's about wellness. It's about showing up as the whole version of myself. So yeah, uninterrupted tea. So I'm going there on this TEDx. Like, I will say some things on this TEDx for the first time in my life out loud. That'll be hard for a lot of you to hear. I read it to someone for the first time this week and they were like, oh, they were gobsmacked. I have so much edits, let me not lie. I do have lots of edits, but the reaction that I saw from my friend showed me that I was going in the right direction. And in the middle of all the TEDx stuff, life is still happening. Still in the process of selling our Houston home, possibly moving, possibly buying something new. My daughter's birthday's coming up. My daughter's moving to a new school. Guys, oh my gosh. School has its own list of stuff. Last week alone, the school was asking us to dress our child up in a different color every day. And then her new school's asking for a $10,000 deposit. I need to talk to people about childcare, school. Anyways, this week felt like I couldn't breathe and it wasn't even a lot. But the TEDx draft for me was the biggest thing and it's submitted, so we move. I'm so happy because that has been bothering me. So yeah, so now I'm just in the process of doing edits. And then towards the end of the week, one of my girlfriends was in town for her birthday from New York and it was exactly what I needed. We celebrated her because I believe in celebration. And what made it special wasn't that we were outside, right? But she's not on an official sabbatical. And me and her are literally in the same season. She's resting, she's rediscovering who she is. She has the grace to do that. Yeah, and there's something that's so powerful about being seen by someone who gets it, and it's rare. And not someone who's watching from the outside is like, oh my God, this must be nice, because it's not nice. So it's nice to see someone who's in it with you and understand what it cost, the sacrifices you had to make to get here. And the truth of the matter is, when you're going through so many life changes, you do need a moment to kind of like recover and breathe, and people forget this. So that was that. I absolutely loved hanging out with her. It was Mother's Day in the UK, so just nice to just be outside. And the restaurant we tried in Malibu reminded me why I need to go to Japan. Oh yeah, I also went to a gala that was about ending sex trafficking. And I'll say this quickly and then I'm gonna move on. Sex trafficking is a $100 billion industry. And I spent years as a chief impact officer, so I actually care about where my presence goes these days. I get invited to so many things, but I want to be in rooms where real change is being made. Like, sex trafficking is a $100 billion industry. And, you know, it reminded me of a project that I started not too long ago called SAFE. And it's a shelter where women can go for safety. So it's a project, something I'll talk about another time. It's been a week. Oh my gosh, it's been a week. So that's where some of my time went this week and I wouldn't trade it. So yeah, week 6, church, TEDx, community, forgiveness, impact. This week was not easy, but it was full. And I keep coming back to the message from the pastor, which is like, some seasons aren't about moving forward. Sometimes they're about recovery. And I'm okay with that. So thank you for listening. I hope you're learning something during these series about me or about you, or at least to be brave enough to take some time for yourself, because honestly, you guys are part of the reason I keep showing up. So see you guys next week. And until then, stay uninterrupted.